Crystal Black Feather that we've seen him on, things like that, whereas Dark Potato is all about bruisers.
Yeah, and you can see the Black Feather already been respect banned away there.
Yeah, I like that draft from G2. Not taking Grace though, that's very interesting. Maybe they want to play Sky into that, but Black Feather is a great ban because Fnatic has in the past first picked Black Feather and played a lot of Black Feather in terms of lane or even CP and flexing it really well. And Vox is going to be picked up here. It's a great pick into Lyra because of the Poison Shiv build that we know. So it's a little risky draft from the side of G2. They need to ban Grace here at this point and not give them a Grace Vox combination. That's pretty strong. And if they do ban Grace, then Fnatic will most likely pick up Cat. And then G2 needs to pick up Baptiste because Fnatic, they're actually ban Cat instead and give Grace over to the side of Fnatic. But Fnatic doesn't have to pick Grace here. So that's an option that they can do and just secure a jungler like Samuel or Baptiste for themselves if they want to make sure that they deny key picks from G2 side.
Yeah, I mean, Grace is no longer a pick that's likely to go over to G2 unless they want to do their best SK Gaming impression and run that weapon power. Baptiste is going to be the pick. Obviously, that's flexible for them.
Yeah, Baptiste is going to be the pick that I would expect G2 to maybe go for a Samuel, pair the Samuel with the Lyra. It's a very strong combo that we've seen going all the way back to last season, and it works well, or I shouldn't say well, but it's a fairly even matchup against a Baptiste in the jungle. If those do end up being the jungler for Fnatic, because that can also go into the captain role.
And they can play the meta composition Kestrel with Samuel. That's a very strong meta composition that every single team in EU and NA has played because it's a comp that was very successful in EA. And I can see that coming out here from the side of G2. But it depends what Hunter is going to be comfortable with. You know, does he want to maybe Ringo into this? He's played a very solid CP Ringo and maybe pick a weapon power jungler that can match a Baptiste like a Grumpjaw. But I think they're going to go, looks like with Kestrel being picked and Samuel, they're probably going to go with that pick there. Or they can secure the Sky, but Sky is really risky into Baptiste. Scarf instead. Scarf is so popular now. It's like they like Scarf better than Samuel.
I think part of it might just be taking it away from Palmatoro, not wanting to go into Palmatoro's Scarf, because that's something that he has been dominant on.
Yeah, it really has been, and I mean, Scarf is just a strong pick in general, especially for these games that go a little bit later. Obviously, with a Vox Baptiste, that doesn't really scream early game pressure. So Scarf, I feel, is like a really safe pick into this situation. It allows them to very likely be able to scale up into that late game. And if Scarf can just poke a little bit, and then you can, once you get them a little bit low, once you get some breaking point stacks built up, the Kestrel can go in, and with a Dragon's Breath at her back, you can melt through your entire opposition.
For Fnatic here, they can pick Grace or Celeste. Celeste would be pretty good because Celeste outranges the Kestrel and just beats her late game. And also a Celeste can outplay a Scarf as well because now you have stuns, you have the Ordain, you have the Fearsome Shade. You can then actually cancel Dragon's Breath and just counter it completely. And you can't really Dragon's Breath into a Celeste ultimate. You're going to eat it point blank. So they could pick Celeste up here, or they can just go with Grace and just play really aggressive with that composition.
And you can see how much this game matters to these two teams, how much they're considering
Samuel instead here.
Samuel comes through, so they are going to go with the range, like the mage jungle coming on through for Palmatoro, and it's going to be Net Toilet going on to the Baptiste captain, something we've seen him play a lot.
Yeah, Baptiste captain works here, but Samuel, they have to play it correctly because Lyra is such a sustain hero. She out-sustains the Samuel sustain, so this would be a very interesting matchup.
At the same time, though, Baptiste, Samuel, they both have a lot of sustain for themselves just built into their kit, and there's not really going to be a viable Poison Shiv option for the side of G2 because they, Kestrel, if you go Poison Shiv on Kestrel, you're likely already going to be losing. So I feel like that massive sustain just built into the kits of Baptiste and Samuel could be enough.
All right, so important question. G2 needs just a single game in this series. Is this composition going to be good enough? How do they need to make this happen?
Yeah, they need to counter the Baptiste, and then they can win because Lyra with Kestrel has a lot of sustain and Scarf's poke. They can do it.
All right, we'll see if they can bring that to pass. It's time to get on into our first semi-final of the day. It's Fnatic going up against G2, an incredibly important match for both organizations. Hashtag Vainglory 8, let everybody know what's going on Twitter. But let's get on into the action and go into one of our first decider matches.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have loaded into the Halcyon Fold, and we've got G2 Esports versus Fnatic. This is going to be a very important match here. One win from G2 to dominate can completely change their story. Well, let's see how things are going to play out. How do you like these compositions from these teams here to start off?
Well, I always gotta like the scarf for Dark Potato. You know, there's a lot of people in Europe that can take this pick and really run away with it, but Dark Potato is so mechanically talented that just to me it makes so much sense. And they're actually finding some damage down on the net toilet here.
Yeah, G2. It looks like they found a little net toilet trait early on. Hundor decides, team, you can handle this. I'm going back to the lane. I got farm to get. Keanu just throwing out, letting that second attack come through so he gets the slow off, a little more damage. And Dark Potato, it's a matter of time, one would imagine, to nominate before they find this kill. I don't know, or might just find that it's time for him to loop back around. There you go, a couple glimmer shots. Net will go down. First blood to G2, and they need it.
Yeah, if I remember looking at the standings correctly, G2 should only need 1 point to surpass Salty Potatoes, as Salty Potatoes obviously has the tiebreaker with them currently. Getting the first blood onto Hundor is pretty important, that it didn't go to Keanu Nakoa. We want Hundor to get to that point in the game that he can really force Techno JJ out of a fight, or even really abuse the fact that Nettoilette on this Baptiste is a very squishy captain. He's not particularly one of the captains we think about when we think raw tank.
Exactly.
So a couple weapon Kestrel Glimmer shots to the face could potentially force out a Fountain, or force out a Fearsome Shade when the team is not ready. And those are pretty important cooldowns that G2 is going to be looking to burn as this game goes on.
Yeah, I also wonder, is it going to force him to itemize maybe a little bit differently than he'd like to? Because both the Kestrel and the Scarf, those are very high damage output heroes. And like you said, we don't think Batista of the tanky captains category, really. But Net, he's pretty godly on this pick, we have seen thus far. I doubt that it was luck that he was landing his double Fearsome Shades and locking people down with the Ordained. We'll see what they can do here. About 3 minutes into this one, Net moving in with Palmatoro, mid secured up by Dark Potato. He's happy to get that. Drifting Dark from Palma, they're moving forward. The Mouse Inverted connecting a little bit onto Keanu, but remember they have this Lyra. Any damage they take will just heal right back up there early on.
Yeah, and actually Palmatoro getting a little bit ahead here on CS in the jungle, sitting at 15 to the 12 of Dark Potato, but Palmatoro's jungle is up and ready to go, so that's it's going to be a little bit more of an edge to them. Techno JJ is a little bit ahead of Hundor here in the lane as well, so just starting to see that the gold sharing out of G2, you know, because they have this gold advantage, and it's more than just the first blood. Just the ambient gold sharing for them is just really on point today.
Well, G2, they have to perform. They have to get that win today. They don't even have to win the series, which is an interesting kind of pressure, I think. Just to have one game. I don't know if that's more or less pressure for this team, but I think they definitely can do this. Ordain's going to come out down here in the jungle onto Dark Potato. He should be okay, but they might lose their mids. In fact, they do lose the mid. It's going in the way of Net Toilette. He's happy to take that, and it looks like these guys just going to wait it out till the shop spawns. G2 rotating down as well to this jungle shop area. I wonder if this could be a little bit of an engagement. These guys, they don't know. Okay, now they know. Mouse spreading, the players come out. They know what's going on. A little corrupted genius from Palmatoro. Should be G2 getting out of there. Both guys just kind of shopping up, but a nice early fountain here for Keanu.
Yeah, early fountain for Keanu. Again, just really showing how well they've done with their ambient gold sharing. We're still quite a ways away, actually, for Net Toilette's fountain. Some of that is attributed to the amount of vision that Net Toilette has bought. But, you know, again, this is them getting ahead on their CS individually.
Ooh,
fast
look at that turret
rotations. Yeah, turret damage from Scarf is absolutely insane. And a good bright bulwark out of Keanu Nakoa just ensures that the side of Fnatic is not going to be able to engage. And that is going to be Dark Potato now rotating back down to his jungle. Really needs to either get a Shatterglass or a Frostburn, something just with a lot of upfront damage to keep Net Toilette back.
Ordain's out onto Keanu. He's eating pretty good damage, just stands his ground. You can tell that Fnatic, they're not quite ready to dive just yet. Just a matter of time. I bet they will be. Net also only level 3 here, 5 minutes in. That does feel like it's kind of rough on him. He'll hit his level 4 mark. Dark Potato moving forward. It felt like maybe he wanted to get aggressive, but not a lot of abilities connecting there. Kind of just a standoff.
Not a lot of abilities connecting, but we do have to look over at Palmatora, who is level 6. He's had a lot of solo jungle opportunity, so that is now an ultimate available for Samuel, that Oblivion on board, and not... actually, we're just now ticking over for Dark Potato, so they will both be level 6 going on into the next fight. Obviously, there's a pretty sizable amount of crowd control that comes out of Fnatic that can potentially deal with that ultimate, though. You know, he can get locked up in an Ordained, a Fearsome Shade can come out, or even the Oblivion can come through and really disrupt that ability.
Those are really good tools. I think all of those are great tools. Palmatoro trying to contest the fronts here, and he will successfully contest, but he's going to be forced out. Hundor drops down from lane, Keanu's there as well, and G2 as a unit are going to shop. Fnatic are down here as well. This is a 3 versus 3. Oblivion puts the Lyra to sleep. Keanu, you got to get back. The wait for it coming through as well. He's taking a whole bunch of damage. Fountain keeping them alive. Fnatic, are you going to dive in here? Yes, Tetno's got it with a little bit of a Sonic Zoom help. Crystal Sentry going to join this party, Denominate. And it looks like it's going to be all Fnatic want at this point, though. They get that kill. That's so good for them. And also now the Tension Bow pickup for our Vox.
Yeah, and one thing we do need to make note of is this scout trap underneath the middle treant for the side of G2 has been there the entire game. So that is a 50 gold item that Nettoilette has dropped that has given them vision for 7 minutes now. So definitely a useful placement there, definitely somewhere that as a captain you need to check. And now G2 here up in the lane might be looking to push down this turret. They do have the Scarf, so they have the siege potential if they can get this wave forced up quickly.
Yeah, I think they'd also like to fight before that Fearsome Shade comes out. Ordained is down, but they just waited out. It times out, but Drifting Dark from Palmatoro. He moves up into the lane. Malice Verdict onto Keanu. Keanu doing a good job to frontline, just absorb that for his team. They're not grouped up. It wasn't splashing damage, but he's forced to use that ultimate out to disengage.
Yeah, the ultimate is forced out. That's going to be a long cooldown now burned. That's hard engagement that G2 is no longer able to make. And now it is Tetno JJ making sure that Hundor misses as much farm as possible. But Fnatic looks to start up the gold miner here. 1 shot, 1 kill. Not going to quite hit the mark. And I don't know if G2 knows. The flare comes out. Oh, this is a pretty risky gold mine scenario here. And actually it does look like Fnatic is just going to pull off. So seeing that G2 comes down, definitely smart of them.
Yeah, but what about the fans? What about the viewers, right?
Right,
People like to see that risky gold miner take.
Yeah, definitely fun to watch, but obviously, with as important as these games are, they don't want to give up any advantage. There already is about 1,000 gold lead for the side of G2. Again, they've really done a great job at sharing the ambient gold, making sure when the lane is cleared out, there's always somebody there getting the ambient if possible. It's just really smart play out of G2, and I'm so glad that we're actually seeing them again in a point where they can make it to the championships after starting the season off so rough.
Oh yeah, it'd feel weird if they weren't there. Oh, the Glimmers starting to actually connect here a bit, Denominate. You see that he's got the Sorrow Blade Attention Bow. Actually, wait for it thrown out. They're trying to go the other way. Fnatic want to play some games here. Nettoilette poking around, but they've turned it. 1 shot connects onto Nettoilette, and let the dragon burn, baby, burn. G2. Turn it around on Fnatic, find a kill, and this is going to be turret going down as well. You win a fight, you take an objective, portal forward, the active camo, glimmer shots, almost clipping Tetno. He Sonic zooms his way forward, Palmatoro. I don't think he's going to find anything here. What a great turn of events for G2.
Yeah, and what really stood out in that fight is we talked about how susceptible Nettoilette on this Baptiste is to poke, and we saw a Spitfire land, and then we saw a couple of Glimmer Shots land, and Nettoilette was literally forced all the way out of the fight. So it's definitely a risk running this Baptiste into such a poke-heavy composition. You have to make sure that your Fearsome Shade connects in a way that forces the enemy into a obstruction, into a turret, a wall, anything that doesn't force them too far away. Mm-hmm. Because if you just fear them away, again, it's a poke composition. It's they want to have distance over you. So that's why we really have to see the Fearsome Shade used properly in this scenario. You don't just want to fear the enemy away, because range is their advantage here.
I see the range advantage, and you know what I'm thinking of here at Denominate? As time goes on, if G2 can get a Kraken, their push should be insane. Like, the only way the Fnatic can actually stop them getting at least 2, maybe 3 turrets
If G2
easily
misplays.
would be, yeah, a misplay, or they have to kill heroes. Like, yeah, you can't just sit back at this lane. Let's see how this plays out here. We have both teams up in the lane. Spitfire's coming down the pipe, not connecting. Both teams just back and forth. They're looking for this opening.
Yeah, Imperial Sigil coming down to get the speed boost over here, and it is now going to be a battle of the poke. Scarf should usually win out that trade versus a Samuel, unless if the Drifting Dark is down. And just looking at the builds here, neither one of the junglers has completed that Broken Myth yet, but Dark Potato has the gold in his pocket to do so, as well as has a reflex block. So again, Dark Potato doing a really good job managing his gold. Again, we obviously have that first turret as well, giving a couple hundred bonus over to him. But he should have a Broken Myth next time he makes it down to the shop. I'm actually surprised he's not picking it up right now before this fight.
Keanu forced to Arcane Passage backwards. We see Net taking a whole bunch of damage, just equally as fast as Keanu, his counterpart, was taking it on the other side. Now, one thing that I'm seeing here, the breaking point for Techno. To me, I'm looking at this Vox and I'm thinking, you know what? If he manages to actually get a couple attacks off without losing too much health, he should probably do pretty well in these fights.
He would, and the risk is that for Vox with a short range to go into this composition of the Kestrel and the Scarf, he almost basically has to shove himself into that front line. He's going to have to be building stacks off of either Keanu Nakoa or Hundor, since Dark Potato is very likely going to be the furthest one back. And that puts him at a position where a couple Glimmer Shots or a couple Spitfires really could ruin his day. So yes, there's a lot of potential. Obviously, there's going to be low defense on the side of G2, so there is a lot of potential for him to ramp up breaking point very quickly. He's just got to make sure that he's using the Sonic Zoom in a timely manner that he can avoid as much incoming damage as possible.
Well, one thing that may help him make his life a little easier in these fights, Netlet, he's got that Echo ready to go. We can have the double Fearsome Shade coming out. It could really disrupt what G2 want to accomplish here. You have one reflex on Dark Potato, sure. You got the Crucible from Keanu, but it's really hard to block off everything. The Wait for it, the Oblivion, you mentioned all of the abilities they had earlier. And you see flares, scout traps being picked up en masse by Net. He knows the vision is so important. And that one scout trap that you mentioned earlier, it's actually still up.
Yeah, I mean, we are now 13 minutes in, and one scout trap has lived its entire life so far in one spot since the first 45 seconds of the game.
If you calculated like an average of how long a scout trap lasts in Vainglory, and then like value based off of that, this would be like a 400 gold scout trap. Like, this thing is worth a whole bunch of money.
Yeah, definitely getting their use out of it, and again, that's why it's super important for captains and junglers specifically to check these very common spots, because again, that is not an uncommon spot for a scout trap. That is a almost every game a scout trap will get put down in that location at some point, and they just haven't even checked it. I mean, I don't know, maybe they know it's there and they're trying to bait out a fight. You know, hey, if they have vision of us, they might come in and then we can fight underneath the gold sentry. I don't know. I'm gonna.
But they also don't have a melee hero on their team. I think that has something to do with it. Like, sometimes you accidentally clear that out.
Yeah. When you're
they should,
meleeing
right?
it. But I mean, you should always check though. I mean, it should be natural to check.
Yeah. Dark Potato not realizing the Spitfire doesn't clear scout traps at this point. Okay, so
Fnatic up here in the lane might be looking to force a little bit of damage as Netuletta's here.
Yeah, if they get them grouped up like that, we could see this Fearsome Shade come out. Look at big damage actually connecting from Hundor onto Fnatic. Fnatic doing a good job. The natural region they have built into their kits is something our analysts talked about. Maybe there's a Lyra for G2, but the natural sustain coming out of Fnatic is pretty good. Players from both teams here. You see Techno, he's used that weapon infusion. Techno is ready to fight, to stand his ground here. If G2 actually want to take an engagement. 15 minutes in, Kraken is out. Does this change anything on the map?
It's a lot of opportunity for both of these teams. They both have to be very, very cautious. both of them would be able to take a Kraken very quickly. So this next fight could really determine which way this game swings. And we do got to make note, Netoulet does now have this Echo complete. So this Captain Baptiste role has now really changed. He's allowed to be a lot more aggressive at this point. But again, I think just because Vox is at such a range disadvantage, you have to use the Fearsome Shade to try to lock somebody up against a wall, against a turret, against anything that allows Vox to abuse that time they're essentially stunned. So that is
fine net. They let him go.
And clearing out some vision, definitely good for G2. Looked like I think 4 scout traps were cleaned out there, so that is now 200 gold worth of vision off of the fold. We still have 1 lonely scout trap in the G2 jungle.
Well, maybe Net can find a friend for that one later. We'll see if it actually gets cleared out. That could be the MVP of the whole game. Of scout traps. Keanu eating some Malice and Verdicts. G2, I mean, they're kind of slow rolling this right now, but they've got a great late game composition, and this is so important to them. Like, we can't stress how important winning this game could be to this team. I mean, you're watching Championship from home, or you're in LA. I mean, what does that do to you mentally?
Well, I mean, they're in a pretty comfortable situation because again, they're tied with Salty Potatoes right now, and they only need 1 point to pass them. And as I look at yesterday's schedule, I do believe Salty Potatoes did go down 2-0. Yes, they did. Okay, so Salty Potatoes, their run for points is done.
Yeah.
And that's why this game particularly is so important for G2. All they have to do is pick up 1 point, and they lock themselves in for a spot at the championship. So yeah, it's definitely a huge opportunity for G2. They had such a rough start to the season, so picking up 1 point here would be a lot off of their shoulders. But obviously they will then be fighting for seeding, and I think these teams are actually very evenly matched. But they're going in on net.
Are they gonna go for this? Oh man, they almost pulled the trigger there to nominate. It is crazy to me. I mean, yeah, these guys have played for months and months to get to this point, right? But if we look at it in a vacuum, they win 1 game, they go to LA. That's how it is right now. This is where it stands for everybody watching right now. G2, I mean, yeah, it's not just like they have to win this one. They're in this series, right? They could lose this one, win the next one, but just one. And that feels so crazy to me as a caster right now. Fnatic trying to hold the ground. Palmatoro is going to pop his Crystalline Fusion. He senses that they want to fight. G2, let's not force this. The Trian's bait out. This is EU. Remember, Oblivion's come out. The Fearsome Shade. Double Fearsome Shade. It connects onto Palmatoro the second. They're moving forward. Net's on the front line. Palmatoro. He's got the Malice and Verdict. They lost Keanu. A double kill coming through for Palmatoro. And Dark Potatoes on the run. He's going to stand his ground. Goop the Spitfires. He wants Palmatoro. Can he take Net down? No! Yes! He gets Netoulet, but they take him down as well. An ace for Fnatic as they just come out of the gates.
A beautiful fight for Fnatic there. They chained the weight for it with the Fearsome Shade, and Vox was fortunately close enough to the fight that he was able to really pursue and get a lot of damage down. And like I said, both of these teams have a lot of objective damage, and that is going to be a free Kraken going on over to the side of Fnatic. And now Techno JJ going to rotate up and make sure this first turret drops before the Kraken gets there. And this is incredibly important because when the turret explodes, it does a percentage of health damage to the Kraken. So making sure the Kraken is at full fighting force as it comes in, returns into the lane, is going to give them a little additional time. Now, we still have to see them play careful, and obviously G2, a lot of objective damage here. We have to see Fnatic make a smart push. We see too many teams get Kraken and then just throw it all away, so definitely have to be careful.
Keanu dropping very low, dangerously low. Oblivion blocked off. A nice Crucible coming out there. It's actually the Aegis burned off as well. And I think Netoulet threw a Fearsome Shade to chase them down. His Echo's coming up here in just a couple of seconds. We'll see how that plays out.
That's still going to be a 40-second cooldown now for that Fearsome Shade, so that's definitely a huge utility. And this Kraken, like I said, G2, so much objective damage with this Scarf and Kestrel. Take it down incredibly quickly.
Why do you think G2 were on Fnatic's side of the map, taking the fight where they did.
I think it just happened to be they thought they were in a position that they could just win the fight. Hundor is a 4-item Kestrel. I don't think he was quite prepared for the fact that Techno JJ had just completed that tier 3 armor. Obviously, Hundor still can do a lot of damage to Techno JJ despite that armor, but I think he was thinking, you know, 1 or 2 glimmer shots was going to force the fight back, and that's just not how it happened. And then again, the good chaining of the crowd control coming out of Fnatic really turned that fight quickly. Dark Potato almost cleaned up the additional 2 kills, didn't quite find Palmatoro. Again, this is why I love Dark Potato on this pick. He's very accurate with the Spitfires. He has good timings of the goop. And, you know, I still think that G2 can pull this together. I think they do have a composition that should work well into Fnatic, specifically before that Toilette finishes a tier 3 armor or additional shield.
They're doing it again. They're doing it. Okay, first Fearsome Shade. I would catches Keanu. Are they going to throw another one? A nice stun coming through. Catches Fnatic, but they're in the choke point. Dragon's Breath coming through. Dark Potato burning that Toilette. Hundor's there. They have the damage. G2 finding the kill that they were looking for. As Fnatic baited into that choke point a little. One shot, 598 damage coming out on Palmatoro. Arcane Passage, the Bright Bulwark. Keanu leaves himself vulnerable, but Dark Potato's there to clean up with his ally. Gives him that high five on the way back as Hundor takes the turret down. G2 finding the perfect fight in this moment. And not only that, Denominate, they're going to take the choke point turret as well. That is a huge win for them.
Like I said, their composition is just, it's a really good composition in general. You know, Kestrel paired with some sort of sieging mage composition, for example, Samuel, Celeste, Scarf, it can just be such a huge threat. And we saw Dark Potato kiting back there, built up some broken myth stacks, turned around with the Dragon's Breath. All of the crowd control was already burned out of Fnatic, trying to chase G2 down, and then they just turned it right around.
Techno almost caught that Kraken with the wait for it.
Kraken does go through now for G2.
Gano stunned up. Techno's here. They don't have Palmatoro. They're actually playing games, though. This feels like a precarious position.
One thing that's absolutely huge here is Scarf is not going to be going into this next fight at full energy. The damage coming out of Techno JJ did stop that Kraken buff. But if Fnatic doesn't play this carefully here, if G2 finds a fight, Scarf is very good when pushing with Kraken. If Fnatic falls, this is going to be game going over to G2, and again, it's so important to them right now.
Oh my god, can G2 go to the Unified Live Championship off the back of this fight? Glimmer shots connecting onto net. He's melting down low. The drifting dark from Palmatoro trying to deny their plane tickets across the ocean. Techno JJ Sonic zooming, but the group's burning him down. Fearsome Shade sends Hundor running back towards his base, but they've lost Techno JJ. The second Fearsome Shade from Net Toilette. They're doing their best. Kraken still alive. Denominate. Can G2 do it? They're onto the Vein Crystal. Hundor, the Weapon Kestrel, the damage. Spitfires from Dark Potato. He drops the goop of all goops that he's ever dropped to secure his win. And G2 Esports have done it. They needed one win today, and they grabbed that win here against Fnatic. How good does that feel, man, for G2? Salty Potatoes, probably watching this game, you have to imagine, feels not quite amazing for them. What a run. What a run.
Yeah, it's got to feel good for G2. A lot of weight off their shoulders to win the first game. We'll be looking forward to see how they go for the rest of the weekend.
Now, well, I'm excited to see what's gonna come forward in game 2. These guys have to be feeling